want NEC to put it on record that we appreciate and respect all former KANU officials, including our former national chairman, and we call upon all those officials to equally respect and allow us, the current representatives, duly elected in full view of the nation and the world, to fulfill the mandate of running this party until such time as our term expires.
That is a museum from 2006 when we had, by then, that was Uhuru Kenyatta as a KANU member, just to rejig your memory. I'm the Deputy President. This is what the editorial cartoon is holding today in the editorial pages. That is Victor Ndolo in the Daily Nation. And also the Coming to America Diary, as has been projected by Stano inside the People Daily today. And you know the winner of the EPL, Man City took it away. This is what Gams has drawn today. And those are the editorial cartoons. We continue pace with the conversation regarding the state of economy, just looking briefly at the recent Kenya National Bureau of Statistics Economic Survey 2024. And also we try and juxtapose that with the recent finance bill as well, that some of the issues that have been highlighted. We want just to wrap it up with you, Dr. Nyikal. Just you wanted to comment on...
I wanted to comment about this performance of banks and the issue of manufacturing. In my view, if you look at the performance of the economy, the first thing you say is actually agriculture. Now, but if you look at employment, then you find that manufacturing is actually extremely important in employing young people. Our biggest problem in this country actually is unemployed youth. If we are doing well, how can we turn this into manufacturing? How can we flip so that when there's an improvement in the economy, there's better investment in manufacturing? And then when you come to that, you find, say like the cost of doing business. Just starting a business, it's so lengthy, there are so many procedures that you have to go through. And then we talked of electricity. Electricity is not just the cost of electricity. I think people in industry, what they probably suffer most is the irregular supply. So they literally probably half the time they're actually generating their own power using generators. And that cost is actually much higher. So we need to look at those areas. So if we look at manufacturing, link it to agriculture, I believe the way we will move in terms of manufacturing is agro-manufacturing, agro-industry. When our agriculture is doing well, and what we are happy with is just actually sending out, exporting raw materials. Value addition is minimal, so that it goes out there and like coffee, it comes back to us and we buy it at higher. When we shall move from using the agricultural base to go into agro-industry and agro-manufacturing, so that now we export the finished products, actually will move. And to me, the biggest point, the biggest issue about that is employment. We have a large number of youth, some are well trained, but they are not employed. And I can see there can be no better way of actually creating employment than actually improving and enhancing manufacturing. And look at the interest rates. The interest rates are high. Getting money is high, like a friend of mine always tells me. Don't bother going to borrow, look for money from the bank if you need it, because banks give money to people who don't need it, people who can actually do without what they give. So if we bring our interest rates low a little bit, that benefit we are getting by bank performing, reduce the interest rates, direct it into manufacturing, so that people can borrow and go into manufacturing and create jobs, make the cost of manufacturing lower, electricity, even the tax regimes. I think that's an area we should look at. And eventually, when all is said and done, the person in their own home must feel that there is an improvement in the economy. We'll go all these other data that we get, we say, are people feeling better? Are they healthier? Are their children going to school? Are they feeling they can put food on the table easily? I think, to me, that is where all this should take us.
Right. I was just want to go on the public sector wage bill as well. If you can look at that, it says 832.7 billion in 2023. If you look at the private sector, the wage bill stands at 1.97 trillion shillings in 2023. Are they taking cognizance also of the fact that we had almost the ghost workers? We had almost 2,000 employees in government under fake certificates that some of them have opted now to resign even early before they actually caught up in that particular dragnet, or maybe they were forced to resign, I don't know. This particular wage bill that we're talking about, especially in the public sector, has been one of the biggest worry for any administration, even with the current administration. They're trying now to pay down on the wage bill, people to declare their wealth, so that also we stamp the flow of corruption that has been happening there. Would you want to just comment on the wage bill? Because I think that is where we've been expending a lot of our resources, some offices that are not really warranted at the end of the day, some parastatals that we can see. At least there is a good salutary effort that is coming from the government itself, trying to streamline, also merging some of these parastatals that we've seen, some of them, I think 31 or 35 right now, that have been earmarked for merging or scrapping.
You know, Dabal, you would always require a public service to run the country in some way or the other, and no government can survive without it. But the problem you are pinpointing is to do with poor governance, poor management of the human resources as well as the public resources. And the thing you're pointing on to is not the problem of the public sector wage, but corruption. Corruption that has permitted the employment of people who do not have the right qualification or experience, ghost workers, over expenditure, and keeping organizations, the so-called parastatals that are bleeding this country, running because they provide employment, they provide their cash cows for people in the system. Many years ago, there was a system that was set up, a public inquiry that was set up, or a review that was done by the government. There was a recommendation that was made to cut down parastatals to size. That, I think, was the first Uhuru Kenyatta government. It was never done because some people said, if you remove these corrupt, poorly governed parastatal organizations, where would you get the money? Where would you get the money to run errands and elections and pay things under the table? Now the president has pinpointed that they are a drain on the economy. In fact, they take more money than they produce. We are just pouring money down a bottomless pit. And you would have expected very quick executive directives to say, cut, merge, very, very quickly to save our country, because we don't have the resources. We are borrowing money. When the president goes outside, he's asking for money to finance these unproductive activities. So I think it is high time to call for action on the part of the government to make sure that, in fact, they do the right thing. Get rid of the ghost workers, get rid of the pilfering, close down the parastatals that are not making money, merge those that you can merge, and let's have a clean, neat
Lean, yes, yeah.
lean system. But public workers are going to be needed. They're not the problem. We only have 700,000 or maybe less than 1 million public workers for a country of 50 million. They need to be retrained because changes are taking place in the digital world. The skills that are required today may not be what many of our civil servants have. You need a new blood into the system, but still, they would be required. What we need to deal with is the corruption, the nepotism, the wastages and the leakages that take place in government offices that you see all the time, over expenditure. Whilst you would see an officer moving into an office and it has to be refurnished or refurbished. All the furniture has to be changed. Color televisions in every room. New cars.
Digital watches.
And so on. So there's a lot of poor governance and irresponsibility out there that needs to be checked and put to an end.
At the same time, also the government is mulling over looking at, I don't know, I've seen there's a bill that will take cognizance of the civil servants who have retired, that with their pension is going to be taking care also of the inflation. So your pension will be adjusted according to the living standards or the inflation rate of any given year. And I said, hey, it is very good and nice to work for the government, right? But in this time of austerity measures, should we even be considering that? You have your pension that is going with the rate of inflation that also the country is subjected to, or you're taking cognizance of inflation that the country is subjected to.
But in defense,
these
people have worked very hard for their country, and they deserve to live a decent life when they leave.
So is the private sector.
Services.
And so is the private sector as well.
The private sector is built in. All this protection, health insurance, mortgages, all these factors are built in. They're not affected by inflation in many ways if you work for a bank or a big corporation. But if you're a civil servant, you'll be affected by the ups and downs. And besides, the pension of the public service workers is not a lot if you compare to the cost of living in this country.
Well, another thing about it is actually social protection. You see, as a government, you actually have obligation to take care of the vulnerable people. And I think that came from the fact that if you looked at the fact that pension was not being over many years, 20 years, if those people who may be retired at 50 and a certain pension, 20 years down the line, their pension is minimally useful to them. I mean, it is so small that actually it does not make sense in their life at all. Absolutely. So they actually live in poverty. So I think that in itself is something we should look at. Because in any case, we are developing a social protection infrastructure with these cash transfers. So why not those who are on pension support them by just reviewing every year what they get? Because if you don't, then you may now have to actually get them in a cash transfer bracket, which you don't want. But
I've been waiting.
No, let me just the public wage bill. There's also a political issue element to it, because of unemployment amongst the youth. Politically, getting people employed is a big incentive amongst politicians, because you are seen as representing your people and getting them employed. So we may say it is, but when actually employment is going on, the same people who are trying to get, how can we get our young people into this? So there's that political incentive that is very difficult to deal with. The only way you can deal with that, if you go into job creation. We have heard of
all right, so
job creation is not something that we have really looked at directly and said, how do we create jobs? They have a lot of strategies for improving the economy and so on, but how do we create jobs and absorb young people? And another ill it creates, when a lot of people are employed, basically because they should earn a living, it destroys the work ethics. So people start looking at jobs as a means of earning a living and not creating anything. So you have people who are not motivated to produce or create, but just to earn.
Right. I think that also brings a very good point on the issue of NSSF and the aging staff as it is, that it is consternating up to now that we don't have anyone who is under the age of 30 employed at the NSSF. And I think, Mheshimiwa, also you're the National Cohesion and the Equality Committee in the National Assembly on this. There is a crisis, and now this is coming from the left side that is catching everyone on how there's that exchange of baton between now the expertise. If these are going to exit, what will happen? And how come we've been having such disparities that we don't have any youthful faces within NSSF right now? That question can be also asked with the issue of contractual arrangements that we've seen the government putting out, especially for the civil servants who've retired. They're being recalled back to work because of the expertise. It seems there's a skill gap that is always, coming to bear when there is retirement, and how this transfer of skill is being also handled within this particular parastatals. I think this is a big one, and we need also to ask that question when we're talking about employment.
Yes. He has not spoken for
No. You're the one who's asking to speak. Now you're giving you a chance. You want to deflect the question. Yeah.
No, I'm a Democrat. But I want
That you're a Democrat.
I want to say this that
without going back to the point that he was talking. Answer the question first.
No, I want to say this that we as a country have certain I want to call it a systemic problem. In terms of decisions that were made on things like retirement age, wage, whether we want to go to PNP, we want to go to contractual. There's a lot of disconnect in the public service on these matters. Today, the retirement age, I was hearing people saying retirement age needs to go down to
55.
55. I said no. In fact, it should go to 65. Yeah. Because at 60 years, somebody is actually an expert. He's been on that job. He understands things. He is wiser. He would make the correct decisions. But at that age, that's the time that we're telling a person, retire. If you look at wage earning profiles and, professionalism profiles, you realize that people, as they get older on the job, get more expertise. They have been trained. A lot of money has been spent on them, a lot of capacity building. They have traveled the world. They can come and do a good job. But then we tell them that at 60 years, you are off. I propose that we need to take it to 65, 70.
But where's the money to pay the
no, I'll come back there.
We should ask ourselves why was it taken to 60?
I will come back there. What are we doing about this cash transfer? How much money today do we take it to cash transfer today? Because I have seen people who have been civil servants actually go for cash transfers today. I have them in my constituency. They've been civil servants. He's been a chief. He has been Nanini. He's actually 65, 67 years there. And this person is actually queuing to get the cash transfer. This cash transfer is a political thing. It was started as a political thing. Now it is eating into the budget. Every month we release like 5 billion shillings into the cash transfer. But if these cash transfers were taken back into the wage bill so that it can take care of retirement age, so that people can be, there's enough money. Actually, this country has enough money. The only thing is we have tried to put in a lot of money into social programs, social protection programs, that if we had taken care of our people in terms of when they were civil servants properly, we would not have those kind of things. They'll be taking care of themselves. Today, you have a civil servant who has served. He is 60. You've told him to retire. He comes back and asks for bursary for his children. But if this guy was still employed and this same money that we're giving him bursary, he would have used it to pay school fees for his children. Today you saw that in Parliament we passed a law to increase the amount of money from 35, is it 30% to 35% for the bursary? For NGCDF. But look here, there are a retired teacher who married late and has younger children comes back and tells you, I want bursary. But if he was still in employment, he would not have demanded this money for bursary. So we need a proper restructuring. What we are doing is we are trying to solve a nation's problem by creating other problems. You know, now cash transfers has become now like an important item. Today, bursary, if you are a politician today, you would not be re-elected if you did not give out bursary. It has become the main job of an MP. But if this money was put, for example, in giving salaries to people who are working there, these people would pay fees for their children. So what I'm saying is that we need a very robust reform in the public service. Robust reform in the public service. So that, and you know, sometimes some of these reforms that come, for example, there are a lot of the money that we are wasting in parastatals, Dibala. There's so many, you know, I read, they know that on every morning and afternoon when Parliament starts, I lay statements on the table of the House. And I always have a list of parastatals that even when I'm reading myself, I wonder, is this a parastatal?
Yeah, it's true.
You know, is this a parastatal? Is this a parastatal?
If you go to KICC, you'll wonder some of the parastatals. Yes. Like, this has been in existence in this country. I've never heard about it.
They are bringing in the financial reports, and I have to lay those papers for the audit committees to start working on them. I can tell you there are over 1,000, I think, parastatals in this country, which even the minister may not even know that this is a parastatal with him. Yeah. What it does for this country, zero. What does it for this country? Zero. It's only that it has employed people, it is spending money, government must push in money there for wage bill and all that. Our wage bill has gone, it's part of social protection. Productivity from those parastatals, zero. You understand? So, but what has happened in this country is that presidents have been unable to balance between economics and politics, such that you want to look at, if I merge or abolish this parastatal, what is the political backlash that I will have? If, you know, Abdikadir, the young lawyer who was an advisor to the president,
the task force,
he recommended merging and throwing out of some of these parastatals. But there was no political goodwill to implement that report. Even as President Ruputo is pushing and saying, no, we must reform this and merge this and merge this and merge. I like his courage. And I think he holds the S that he may eventually crack this thing, that he may abolish some of the parastatals, merge others and all that, and probably within do rationalization of stuff, and within a short period probably would reduce the number of parastatals in this country by half. Because why do you have parastatals? Today, I have a bill in Parliament, a very interesting bill to introduce the cashew nut and coconut authority. And in that bill, I'm creating a parastatal. You understand? The minister Linturi, agriculture, called me and told me, why do you think that AFA cannot do the same job that you want the Agricultural Food Authority cannot do the same job that the authority you're trying to create will do? But again,
politics.
I look at what I'm saying is,
what does Kenya Yearbook? What does the Kenya Yearbook normally do on a day-to-day basis? It's a parastatal.
Yes.
Yeah. No, we appreciate, of course, immortalizing some of his memories, and but can that also be tucked away in the Ministry of Sports and Culture? So that we don't also expend so much money.
So what I'm saying is, we can rationalize. We can actually rationalize public service. One, I think we can actually increase retirement age. I think we can do that comfortably. We can reduce parastatals.
But we
we need to remove,
let's say, from Dan
cash transfers and give money.
But we need to we need to appreciate the fact. Why did we?
Wants to change
this 55. The age of 55 was there before, isn't it?
Yes. It went to 60.
It went to 60. And the fact was there was no money to pay the pensioners.
Yes.
Right? And it seems also there was a debate. I think from Parliament, you're the people who suggested 55. Then it was shot down. There was a debate like that
remember
on
that
the floor.
time.
Yes, there was a
Recently,
debate.
even
But you
recently.
see, recently,
Let me
on the
just
floor of
say-
the House.
Let me tell you, that is why, that is a typical case where politics overrides. When you listen to those debates,
I need to rope in Dan Maza.
Yes,
make the
I
point.
want to say that even for those who have retired, assisted, retirement benefits have delayed
Indeed.
or have refused to be paid at all. And in fact, if you paid a retiree, and in fact, in many other countries, retirees are very active building their nations. You know, they volunteer, others run companies and employ quite a number of young people. So we need to retain the retirement age at 60, and so that we also give an opportunity to younger people to be hired. And this is just the civil service. We also have many other, you know, private companies. Retirement age is an issue. And it is that time a lot of people have acquired skills. It's at the same time their health begins failing them. And therefore, you know, we need to make sure that the retirement benefits accrue to the people immediately. They should not be now the ones who go and look for bursary because the government has held the retirement benefits, and at the same time they are the ones queuing for cash transfers. And yet the government is holding their monies. I think that social bit has to be looked at carefully. But most important is that, unfortunately, there are very many bills now in the House trying to create new parastatals, a job which can be done by others. I've seen something to do with the cotton. Now there's a similar bill dealing with the cashew nuts in the Senate. I have seen, you know, this needs to be synchronized because each house is doing public participation on that and the people are rejecting. I have seen the leader of majority of the Senate, Chariot, recently brought now a bill to create an authority to deal with weather. Yet, you know, we have a department of weather, meteorological department. I mean, I opposed it because it makes no sense. And I hope the president is not going to sign any of these bills into law because it's a very big expense to the taxpayer. And it is not developing the country at all.
What is the name of that bill?
Meteorological, you know,
Okay.
department. You know, to set up a meteorological authority. Yet we have a very strong department. And you know now weather in the world can be predicted anytime by so many agents. So the department is sufficient. You don't need to set up a parastatal to deal with weather in the country.
Why can't we work both in complementarity with the African Union weather center here that was just opened some 2 years back, right?
In the country.
I'm saying,
Which now
As
a bill by the government is
collaborative
trying to
efforts is-
dismantle.
yeah.
So I think we need to be, we're wasting a lot of time in Parliament instead of serving the people or bringing laws which can improve the economy and
I expected also you to
Kenyans
just tell us
better.
because of the Senate we have the Equality Commission as well, the National Cohesion and Equality Commission, and there were questions regarding this Kenya School of Government, where we have also the school retaining some of the employees there who they've reached the age of 71 to 75. They had 12 officers who are aged between 61 and 65, one aged between 66 and 70, and the two aged over 70. And we know this is a school of government. They are taken to be lecturers.
You know, Dibal professors have different retirement age,
judges.
and also
Judges.
judges, and then now the civil service.
In public universities and even private
It's
universities
70.
in the U.S., professors don't retire until very late.
Die.
Yeah, and
The,
so, but
the accumulation of knowledge.
I just
I
wanted
think
to
that was the
Yeah.
defense. Yeah.
The developing countries face a brain drain. You know, young people mostly, the majority of them young people, are going out looking for a fresh start, green pastures. And these are young people as well as, you know, middle management. And these are people who are seeking opportunities elsewhere. But the public service is not an answer. It is not a panacea for unemployment in our country. Because even if the 800,000 figures that you have given here retire today en masse, it will only create another 800,000. It's like a drop in the ocean. So when people argue about retirement age, they're mostly focused on the fact that one person is exiting and a young person would move in. That's not the case. Because that person is very experienced, has accumulated years of education and expertise. You are not likely to replace them. And we're a developing country with fewer skills. So obviously when people are talking about retirement and moving people out, they're talking politically. Our young people need the experience and the expertise under the tutelage of these experts for them to move upwards and then eventually succeed them.
Then why are we rehiring some of his expertise?
But because
that tutelage is happening.
No,
and then they're on contractual basis.
But it doesn't happen in the public service sector because they're all fully focused.
No, there has been reports that we've actually aired here.
Yeah, but Dabal, my point is even if you replace the expert, it's not going to create an opening for young people.
Yes.
What we need is to grow our economy.
Yes.
And so the other thing is that retirement age for a developing country to be reduced to 55 is ridiculous. I think 65. Countries like Germany and Japan are increasing it to 70 plus because they need that expertise. Although theirs is an aging population. But I think the biggest growth can be generated through infrastructure development. Infrastructure development is a fundamental driver of economic growth in countries like ours. You know, building roads, railways, ports, internet network, optic fiber, and so on. This is high intensive. And then growing the manufacturing sector, as others have said. We're not doing any of those at the moment. And that's why, if you look at infrastructure development, the country that has put much emphasis on our infrastructure development is China, not the United States. You cannot mention a single major development project in our country that was undertaken by the United States or the European Union. That's why even Mike Kibaki, who was a liberal economist, a graduate of the London School of Economics, who often thought that Kenya's development path would be linking with the West, became disappointed and then looked east towards China. And with China, we've had the Thika Highway, we have the SGR, we have the Mombasa port, we have the Lamu port.
We have the expressway.
We have the expressway. And now, the good news is that, in fact, China again has stepped in to help us develop our railway system from Nairobi towards where it is most needed, to Malaba, into Uganda, DRC, and Rwanda. And that's the way to go, I think. And maybe eventually when there is peace in Sudan, South Sudan, you would have that extension to Sudan. That is what would lift up the Kenyan economy, the East African economy, and also give hope to our young people in terms of employment. And also, we need a more friendlier physical policy and economic policies that encourage the manufacturing sector. Agro-industry is one of them. You know, these are the areas where if we put much emphasis, like our brothers in Ethiopia did with their development state approach, industrial parks, increasing the electricity capacity, hydropower energy and so on, and creating opportunities of employment and growth that they reached 10%. They had a 10% increase every year for the last 10 years. Unfortunately, because they've got into conflicts and wars, that is going down. And then the final point on this one in terms of employment is if we cut down on waste, if we cut down on corruption, if we cut down on nepotism, every time we do that, we increase 1% of our GDP. We go up. And the more we go up, the more opportunities our young people would have in terms of getting employment, in terms of getting training, and so on. So all these factors need to be factored in our governance and in our economic policies, which I think at the moment isn't happening. We're just circulating around the public service, vitu vidogo vidogo.
All right, but also
the politics.
Allow me to say one thing.
no, I think it's Dr. Nyikal.
just
No, it is Dr. Nyikal.
I just want
When
to
will
tell
you go to politics?
I had a friend of mine.
This is not
We have
politics.
enough of this.
Yeah, let's hear.
I had a friend of mine who was reaching 60 years. He received his letter of retirement while he was abroad on a training. You know, he was receiving his letter retirement. He is abroad training. He's just turning 60, you know, and I was being taken.
So all the benefits are taken away.
Training, and he's an engineer, you know. So when he
how
got
many years do you
a
train
higher
an engineer?
level training, this guy, and then he says, no, I'm abroad, I'm training on this and this in Japan, but I think I have a letter of retirement on my desk. So I'm thinking whether
So
I should,
why
whether
was
I
he
should
taken
come
for the
back
training?
home.
It was computer generated. The letter was computer generated.
You understand? So that's why I'm saying retiring people at 60 years when you are even still capacity
In your prime,
building
yeah.
them at their prime. You know, an engineer at 60 years is a guy who just sits at his table. Within 20 years, he's brought for you a design and, you know, he's done everything else at 60 years. You know, and then you tell him, retire. So what will happen to all that knowledge?
There's a whole debate also, I think I was reading from one of our international publications, that we should reconsider, because also the lifespan of the human being has increased.
Yes.
Yeah, so you'll find many people are stronger even at 75, at 80 as well. They can actually be very exceedingly beneficial to the economy with their expertise. Maybe, yes, they always say, do not rush an old man. The clock of an old man is not rushed.
Yes.
But of course, their mind also as well is very fully attuned to some of the expertise that you're talking about. That is maybe what the health committee should consider as well.
The pressure is on because our population is very young.
Yes.
That is it. And then how it plays in politics is this. Whenever there is this discussion on retirement age, the biggest argument is there are a lot of young people who are not
But that
employed.
is a fallacy.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying the politics.
So they're waiting for you to go out.
And once you have touched that, no member of parliament wants to be seen to be talking against employment of young people.
Because
So they know.
chagrin of the
They know,
young,
yeah. So they know, because they also are the major. They are very important in mobilization, in voting, and so on. So people are now playing to the gallery and not to the facts. But we have said here, you cannot use retirement as a job creation measure.
Correct.
You can't.
But hold on, Nyikal, because I think also, Mheshimiwa, you addressed a very important point, because now even we have an easy way out that we have the current administration now proffering, that now since we don't have employment here, we should have the brain drain and take our expertise, the people who are fully, you know, trained by the government's resources, our expertise to other countries. Don't you think maybe we can subject ourselves to where the European nations are right now, with their aging population and lack of the youthful faces to take over at the end of the day, because we've taken our best?
It will actually come. That will actually come even if we don't do anything. It will come because as we go on, the families are coming smaller and smaller by choice. Yes. And these people who are having smaller families themselves, they're aging. So it will come to a time, it may take maybe 20, 30 years. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So
we're already leading as a nation in East Africa, lagging behind on the birth rate compared to our other jurisdiction, the way...
Yeah, so what he said, we should look at job creation on its own. And what he said, as I said, manufacturing, agro-manufacturing, and look at making it possible for SMEs to come in there, making power cheaper, tax regime, money available, so that people can create jobs. Another danger we have when we look at retiring people to create jobs for other people, it actually doesn't create an incentive for being productive. You are going there because you need the job. You need to earn. And if you're working to just earn a living, you are not creative. And if you're creative, you will also create jobs. So I think we must focus on job creation, go into manufacturing, go into industry, employ young people, instead of saying, and they said, even if you retired all people above 60, you would not get enough jobs. So it's a fallacy, as he's saying.
All right, Dan Mazo is stiffly bored with the conversation on this. He wants politics.
He wants siasa.
Yeah, he wants the real siasa.
let's go.
This is not real siasa. But we are pinched for time with the real siasa. We can just have a cursory look, because I think for your consideration is the debate on the 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote that has come back to hound some people.
Another
and maybe,
fallacy.
Yeah, it's another fallacy at the end of the day. Dan Mazo, you want to pick up on that so that we can just look at it on a cursory note. Why is it arising right now?
Well, earlier on it was, you know, the politics of the day that some people feel that development has to be balanced in the country. And I think the so-called 1 shilling, 1 man, 1 vote is a fallacy, is politicized. You know, the country is important for everybody, because the same people who say 1 man, 1 vote, they are also everywhere in the country, and everybody is free to go and invest in any part of the country. And therefore, that seems to have culminated with the disappearance of the deputy president from political scene for a week, and then Limuru 3. And we have seen now quite a number of members of parliament associated with Central Kenya say we are not going to support this finance bill, which has increased the cost of living of Kenyans, and which is going to increase the cost of bread, and is making the disadvantaged Kenyans suffer more. You know, whereby the structure of the government is such that it is not favoring the poor. Although initially during the campaign strategy was, you know, we are going to help the poor. We want the person who are living below $1 to live better, to have a business, and to have earnings. But that doesn't seem to have happened to the border people. It doesn't seem to have happened to the Mama Boga people. If now you come up with a finance bill which increases the cost of very basic things like, you know, bread, bearing in mind sugar is already, you know, very expensive. Then it means the cost of tea and bread, which is a common meal for many Kenyans, is going to be very high, and it become the finance bill, which is on its way, is going to make Kenyans suffer more, and against what brought them to the election. And further to that, you will realize that the current government was largely formed because Central Kenya voted for it. And unfortunately, I've gotten a raw deal out of the current government. You know, government is Ministry of Health, Ministry of Roads, you know, energy. You'll say treasury, but treasury really is a place of transfers. But the real government takes place mainly in roads and infrastructure and things like that, including even water and such things. And therefore, the people of Kenya, Central Kenya, are feeling like they have a raw deal in this government, especially when the deputy president, who we used to be in this show together, is feeling that is not being respected by the government, is being mishandled. And even the governor of Nyeri has come out very strong, saying we are not going to allow this. And we are beginning, you know, the younger ones have said, we are beginning with the finance bill. The other day you saw a riot about avocado taxes. And the KRA was trying to make an inroad into where avocados are grown, mainly to sensitize the people, beware, we're going to tax you more, you have to pay more taxes on avocado. Yet the production is very expensive in itself. And therefore, making it difficult for a common Kenyan to develop, and making the politics of the day more difficult when the country doesn't feel balanced politically, economically, and with the opportunities available, and especially industry and construction and things like that. So there is a growing, you know, infighting within the Kenya Kwanza regime, and there are many dynamics going on. And I think it's a high time we had a government for the people, by the people, and that every Kenyan should feel well taken care of by the government and having an equal opportunity.
Thank you.
Not forgetting the very many fraudsters working for the government with fake papers, and many people who have stolen through corrupt deals,
right,
and nothing has been done to them in the same government.
Okay. We need to wind up. I know he started a debate, but we cannot sustain it right now because of time. We're pinched for time. Vuta ni kuvute, Kenya Kwanza. Which side are you voting on?
No. I want to say this. What has happened is a very unfortunate thing.
Yeah,
that our people, especially in Kenya Kwanza, are playing into the hands of the opposition. Very unnecessary counter-class discussion that I see from the Kenya Kwanza teams, which I want to tell them to stop. This is just bringing a wage. You know, there's this thing that started, you know, we want to have a deputy president now from Muranga. It started like that. I stood as a leader, I said, no, we must stop this discussion of where the deputy president should come from. The president has the right to choose who he wants to work with as his deputy president. That was the first shot. Second, now it comes this issue of the Limuru 3. Limuru 3. Now, Limuru 3 is an opposition thing. Martha Karua, Jeremiah Kioni organized it, and now they are sitting back and smiling at what they have caused in Kenya. Actually, they achieved their objective. But why are we allowing Martha Karua and Jeremiah Kioni to achieve their objective on score a goal on us? Because that is what they've done. They call that Limuru 3. They brought back that thing of one man, one vote, 1 shilling. We have picked it up on the other side. It is bringing issues within government. Now people think the deputy president is isolated. The deputy president of the Republic of Kenya is Rigathi Gachagua. And that is the person that President Ruto has said, this is my man. Any other thing, we don't believe. So this thing that now people who have what I call a fickle political base, they think that every time you want to run to your community is where you get political
we need to wind up.
Position. Is wrong. So I want to tell my Kenya Kwanza brigade, stop these arguments that I see in the press. We need to focus on the economic agenda for the people. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is the President of the Republic of Kenya. I support him as much as I support the president because that is his main assistant.
Have you seen that editorial cartoon?
Yeah, I think. So he doesn't have, deputy president doesn't have to shout that he's the deputy president.
He
is the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. And everybody must respect him.
There you are.
All the members of Kenya Kwanza must respect the deputy president Rigathi Gachagua because he is the deputy president.
That cartoon, you can comment on it. 3 seconds. Owen Bayer, that cartoon.
Which one? This one? No, this one is people, creating stories and trying to drive a wage and a story. They should stop. Even newspapers should stop trying to create a problem. President William Ruto will respect his deputy, and that's the promise he gave us. And we'll hold on to it.
Thank you.
I just say I like his admission that there's confusion in Kenya Kwanza. We are likely to suffer because a confused troop cannot govern. And in the economic situation
I like it.
we are in, they should sort out their confusion. The Limuru 3, if it helps their confusion further, they should sort themselves out. And finally, let me say, kingpins are not elected. Kingpins emerge. You may hold a very high position, but you still not will be a kingpin.
Thank you.
So they shouldn't waste the country's time trying to look for a kingpin and confusing a government that is already having problems governing.
Honorable Yusuf.
Yeah, what we are seeing is a typical Kenyan cultural politics. Politics that are not based on principles or ideology, but are driven by self-interest. And every government has this kind of development. It's rather come a bit early, I think, in this political session.
Wait, you need to put your house in order. Times, is really, and days are flying away from the calendar, so you better know where you really stand. And I think it's way too early, as you put it, but still it's not way too early for the politicians. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I really appreciate it.